Are you thinking about making a move to High Point, North Carolina? Well, here are 5 reasons that you may not want to move here. My name is Meredith Parsons. I'm a realtor. I live here. I love it here. I want you to move here. I want you to love it as much as I do. So like, subscribe, and turn on notifications, because each week I'm going to be taking you on a little tour, a little adventure of all things Greensboro Triad area, and I don't want you to miss out. Are you ready? Let's go. Today we're going to be going over the 5 things of why you may not want to move to High Point, North Carolina. And if you stick to the end, you're going to find one that really could be changed. So stick to the end so you can find out what it is. Now, these are in no particular order. So we're going to start off with number 1. Let's get the worst one over with first, is the crime rate. High Point does have a very high crime rate. It is higher than the national average, and it is both in violent crime and personal crime. So both robberies and like stealing stuff out of cars, and then also violent crimes. I don't know why. If you look at crimemapping.com, you can see where it's located in the city, and it's on the eastern side of the city. My advice to you is to steer clear of those areas. If that's your price point, then maybe we move you to a different area to look for housing or to rent. But I will say that crime happens everywhere, and there's always pockets of certain towns that have it. It's just, it happens to be on the east side of town here in High Point. So I would steer clear of that, and it's something that you definitely need to be aware of. But with crimemapping.com, you can look at it and check out where it is, and so we can keep you safe that way. Number 2 is the weather. So we tend to have very hot summers. Well, I think they're really hot because it's very muggy. So when I have clients that move here from, say, Las Vegas or California or other places, their heat is not the same as it is here. It's just humid. It is a different type of heat. And so that's something that can be a negative. Our summers are usually 80s to 90s, but I mean, you can have a heat index of 105 and higher with the air quality that's in the red, and it's not great. Like, you shouldn't be outside. And then in the winters, what happens is if there's snow, if there is a chance of snow, the entire town shuts down. If you have children, they will not go to school. They will be home with you if there is even a chance of it. And what happens here is we can't deal with the snow. Because of where we are located, we tend to have more ice than we do snow. And if you live in older neighborhoods with the trees, you could have power outages because the tree branches are gonna come down, they're gonna break the lines. So even if yours is buried, like we have at our house, we lose power. Sometimes it's for a day, sometimes it's for 4 or 5 days. So I would say invest in a generator. That's what keeps us, alive and running. And my children, God forbid, they don't have electronics for, a couple days. But that's something that you need to keep into account. If you don't like extreme heat or humid heat, the summers maybe not be ideal for you. Winters, that's hit or miss. That doesn't always happen all the time. We don't always lose power. We don't always have ice or snowstorms. So that's just something to think of as a con of living here. Number 3, High Point and Guilford County as a whole, which is Greensboro and High Point. Now, Winston is in Forsyth County, which is still the same. Forsyth and Guilford County have high property taxes. Now, compared to other counties in the state or other bigger cities in the state like Raleigh, Durham, and Charlotte, we have higher taxes than they do, but our average house price is lower than theirs are. So comparing it to the city as a whole, our taxes are higher. Yes, they are. But if you're comparing it to the United States as a whole, from being least expensive to most expensive, least expensive, we're 21 on the list. So that means there's 39 other states that have higher taxes than we do. So that's a good perspective to have in knowing that we do have higher tax rates on our real estate, but maybe you can go over Randolph County, which is 1 county over, and they have less taxes than we do. So that's a good roundabout way of getting around our high taxes. Number 4, Furniture Market comes to town. If you've checked out my other videos, you can see that Furniture Market happens twice a year. High Point is the furniture manufacturer of the world, or the furniture capital of the world, and twice a year in April and October, you have 100,000 people that come town for Furniture Market. So you're gonna be inundated with 100,000 people that aren't normally there. So your town's basically gonna double. There's more people, that means more traffic. You need to allot for the amount of time that takes you to get somewhere because there's gonna be traffic. And I know that locals don't always love it. I love it because I love Furniture Market and I used to design furniture. But for the people that live there, they may not love it. Also know that something that people do is they rent out their houses because there's not enough places for people to stay. So that could be a source of income for you. Also, you need to keep in mind, like, going out to a restaurant could be problematic because they need to eat somewhere. They've been working all day. The vendors and buyers and salespeople have been working all day. They don't want to cook. They just want to go out to eat. So restaurants can be flooded with market people. So that's just something that you need to keep in mind. It's only twice a year. It's 7 to 10 days twice a year. So it's not a huge amount of time, but it's just something that people don't always necessarily love, but it's manageable. Number 5, you've made it to the end. The town feels quote unquote dead. And I will tell you why. It's because all of downtown are showrooms, all of them. There's not restaurants down there. There's not anything but showrooms. Go back and check out my video on a tour of downtown High Point. You can see that that's what it predominantly is, are showrooms. As I just said, High Point, the Furniture Market comes twice a year. So the rest of the year, it's pretty much dead. And also you've got the High Point University, which takes up 430 acres of High Point. So that takes up a large section of town. So it kind of feels like it's dead. It kind of feels like there's not much going on in those areas. But what High Point is doing is it's growing. It's putting up children's museums. It's ripping down older buildings and putting up luxury apartments and condos. They're bringing in nicer stores, like we've just gotten a Publix, and they've just opened up the baseball stadium. So the children's museum, like, there's just so many things that they're building to make it better. For right now, it still feels like a little bit's not going on, but they are definitely working on improving it. So those were our 5 things that we went over, which are cons. You've got a high crime rate. The weather's not always ideal. It's great sometimes, but it's not always great. We've got high property taxes. Furniture Market comes twice a year, and that the city's just a little bit smaller. It's feels a little bit dead in certain times of the year, but it's growing. So I want you to keep those 5 things in mind. I thank you for sticking around to the end. If you've got any questions, put them in the comments below. Thanks so much. I'll see you next time.